Welcome into College Football Every Game on the Board podcast. We are talking bowl games. We are talking college football playoffs. I am Drew Martin, joined by Matt Josephs, ESPN Richmond at Mid-Major Matt on Twitter. Matt, welcome on in, bud. How you feeling?
Feeling good. 12-3 in the bowls so far, so that's pretty good.
Oh.
Posted so far, and so we'll see what happens. I was disappointed last night. I had the over in the Tennessee game. I wanted, obviously, Illinois to score the touchdown, but they made the right decision, although you should never rely on college kickers, to say the least.
Yeah, it happens. 12-3, though, man. 80% over 15. That's not bad at all. So hopefully we can keep it rolling here, guys. If you're new to Every Game on the Board, it's in the name. We are talking all the college football games on the FBS slate. So we're going to start off here Wednesday, December 31st, New Year's Eve, the Sun Bowl, El Paso, Texas. A little border war here, Matt. 2 o'clock Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. So it's actually going in an hour. This is mostly for the people watching live right now on YouTube and Twitter. We are seeing Duke -3 and a hook as the favorite, 48.5 being the total. Our ACC conference champion, Duke Blue Devils here, and they look to have a lot less opt-outs, Matt. I actually bet Duke. What are you thinking here in the Sun Bowl?
Yeah, I took Duke's money line, and I took Duke's team total over. Now, granted, both of those numbers are gone. Like, Duke's money line is no longer as reasonable for some people. But I look, I actually think this is the type of game that Duke wins and maybe Arizona State covers. You know, as you mentioned, the only 3 opt-outs for Duke is their starting right tackle, a cornerback, and a defensive end. The most important thing is Darian Mensa's back. And the most important thing for them is Darian Mensa's coming back in 2026. So, like, that was very shocking to me, considering he had a good season and considering this means, once again, that Duke is paying him quite a bit of money to stay with the Blue Devils, which I think is fantastic. With him and their pair of great running backs and Cooper Barkate at wide receiver, I don't see much drop-off in Duke's side of things. On the Arizona State side of things, they have 2 guys in the portal, their left tackle, a corner, a bunch of opt-outs, their 1,000-yard running back, a really good wide receiver in Jordan Tyson, who's missed parts of the season, so they've played without him, and then another corner, Keith Abney, the second. We've had a lot of Arizona State games in our part, Drew, because we've talked about Jeff Sims. I think Jeff Sims is, I feel like early, if Jeff Sims is on, he can win the game. Granted, he's 3-0 against Duke in his career, but they were all at Georgia Tech. But like we saw last game, when bad Jeff Sims shows up, bad Jeff Sims shows up. So, like, I feel like this isn't a game where you'll know early whether or not Arizona State can move the ball without a lot of offensive pieces. I expect Duke to move the ball. That's why I took their team total and their money line in this game.
You know, Matt, I got to ask you, working there, going to ACC Media Day, things of that nature. You bring up Duke, being able to pay their quarterback coming back. My question to you is, do you think the landscape of college football, just real quickly here, is going to change over the next couple seasons with NIL? And what I'm getting at is the alumni base. Duke, I know they have, I've had a couple family members that went. They have a lot of like private equity money, hedge fund money, things of that nature on Wall Street with their alumni. We've seen it with Vanderbilt as well. Do you think this is something that's going to stay in terms of the ACC champion being Duke? Get used to it. They're going to be near the top year in, year out. Do you see that happening here?
No, I don't think so, because I just don't think. I think on that campus, if you want to spend $3 million, you're more likely to spend it on basketball side of things. And if we're talking about money, I think SMU is going to always be up there. I mean, Texas money, there's a ton of Texas money, and we've seen it already. I mean, SMU's first 2 years, they've been towards the top in both years so far in the ACC. Virginia gets a lot of anonymous donations. Now, a lot of them lately have gone to the Olympic sports like swimming and lacrosse and stuff like that. But if they start diverting some of that money to football, like, I think Virginia could be here to stay for a little bit. So I don't think it's going to mean Duke is going to suddenly rule this conference, because Clemson, I'm sure, has plenty of money, and Florida State and all that stuff. But I think it's a good sign for the Blue Devils that they were willing to spend the money on Darian Mensa and then decide to keep him there.
Sure. All right, we'll move down the list. We got New Year's Eve here, 3 o'clock Eastern. So just 2 hours away. It is the Citrus Bowl, Camping World Stadium, Orlando, Florida. It is the old Citrus Bowl. It's not where UCF plays, for whatever that's worth. Kind of a rundown place if you're looking to go to the game. Not a huge fan of this stadium. But it is an interesting handicap. Michigan and Texas. This was as high as Texas. I saw it over a touchdown as the favorite. But as we're talking here, a couple hours out from kickoff, It's as low as -4.5. We can call it 5.5, but there are 4 and a hooks out there. Texas as a somewhat short favorite, 48.5 being the total. And we know the mess that Michigan is coming into this bowl game. How are you handicapping this one in Central Florida?
Yeah, it's funny because I'm looking now to see what if there's anything new with regards to Texas opt-out or anything. So I'm going to the good old Pete Thamel's Twitter feed, and there's nothing there. So that's interesting. I listen. I write a newsletter for the Prop Queen, and when I wrote the thing up, it was like 7, and I'm like, I like Michigan plus the 7. If you look at who's not playing in this game, you have a trio of running backs for Texas who are not playing. They're in the portal. They have a linebacker in the portal, and they have 6 defensive starters that are all opting out for this game. And as I've seen on Action Network, 7 of the top 11 in terms of snap counts are not playing in this game defensively, and their defensive coordinator was fired. So, like, Texas's defense is there to be taken advantage of. Now, you look on the Michigan side of things, and of course, what do we all talk about when it comes to Michigan? Well, Sharon Moore got fired. And Biff Poggi took over. And then there was all the stories involving, Sharon Moore and like, how are the kids going to handle it? And I think people are saying basically, look, only 3 opt-outs. Derek Moore, the defensive end, Jayshon Barham, the linebacker, and Giovanni El Hadi, the left guard. Other than that, Michigan's roster is intact, and that tells me these kids want to be here. And I think a lot of people are betting on the motivation side. Like at first, everybody's like, okay, coach gets fired. Kids don't want to be there. They're going to get destroyed. And then all these Texas kids opted out for the game. And now we're sitting there saying, all right, well, now we've got a Texas defense that's not as good. We've got Arch Manning, who much like Jeff Sims in different variations, like Arch Manning's really good. And then Arch Manning's not so good. And he doesn't have his running backs. He doesn't have his, number 2 wide receiver for this game. So Ryan Wingo is going to get a lot of receptions here, I think. So I think people are betting on the Wolverines, who clearly have shown, at least by the lack of opt-outs, that they want to be here. Now, the question is, how is Michigan going to score even against a watered-down Texas defense? Like, how are they going to score in this game? Michigan's offense all year has been boring, has been very tight in terms of like a lot of running and basically not letting the freshmen beat them or make any mistakes. Like, are they going to open things up a little bit here? So at this line move, like the Michigan value's gone, obviously. It was 7. So like, I don't know, Drew. I think that we are getting closer and closer potentially to value on Texas here if it keeps coming down, unless there's something that we haven't seen that hasn't made Twitter yet.
Matt, in your analysis, something that comes to mind is, you talked about the players opting. That's the most important. And a lot of people say, like, the coach goes here. Well, as long as you keep the same scheme, it's like a position coach or a coordinator staying and running the same scheme. Not a whole lot's going to change as long as the players buy in. You know what I mean? So it's just because a coach is not there anymore, it's not as important as the actual players on the field, in my opinion, Matt.
Well, we've seen different extremes of this. We saw Memphis, who was without their coach, and they clearly looked like they didn't have their coach. They played awful. We've seen other teams without their coaches, and they played better. So I feel like it's a case-by-case situation here. And look, I don't think it's a great sign that all these Texas defensive players are opting out. Like, I don't think that's a great sign. Now, look, there's nothing they can do short of these bowl games handing out NIL to players who play. Like, if you win, your team gets X. If you lose, your team gets X, but you have to play in the game. Like, that's the only way we're going to prevent these opt-outs from occurring. But, like, what's Texas's motivation for this game? I mean, Sark wants to win. He wants to finish out strong. Arch Manning wants to put some good tape down. But, like, neither of these teams have exactly great motivation for this game. And I think that's the other part of trying to handicap something like this. I think a lot of people are guessing Michigan wants to be there more than Texas. And by doing that and having this line keep coming down, I think if it gets down much lower, I'm looking at Texas in this situation because I trust them a little bit more, at least with the few defensive starters they do have that will be out there.
Matt, correct me if I'm wrong. I know you know a lot about this, but NIL, I believe, is paid weekly, and they would be paid for playing in the bowl game, right? And then if they opt out, they're not paid. Is that correct?
I'm guessing whatever contract they have with whatever the contract is with the school, but I'm guessing like I'm assuming a lot of schools would include bowl games as part of the contract. And if you opt out, but like, here's the thing, a lot of the opt-outs are going to the NFL draft anyway, and they're going to get drafted high. So while they're not making the money for this game, they're going to make money presumably in the NFL because they're going to be top 3-round draft picks. Texas had a really good defense name-wise, a lot of good players on that defense. Of course, they wouldn't have fired the defensive coordinator if it was great. But I don't think these kids are worried about one bowl game as opposed to their NFL draft future.
Yeah, that's a good point. As we got next one up here, guys. Mid-afternoon, 3:30 Eastern, the Las Vegas Bowl, Legion Stadium, Las Vegas, Nevada, where the Raiders and UNLV play their home games. It's Nebraska and Utah. 50 and a hook being the total, and we are seeing a big favorite here. It's the Utes laying 2 touchdowns. What are we thinking in Las Vegas, Matt?
So here I took Utah's team total over. I was debating their touchdowns was 4.5, and it was a heavy juice to the over, like plus 140 to the over here. I think Utah can name their score. Now, look, here's a classic case of Nebraska doesn't have a lot opt-outs. Running back Emmett Johnson and the edge Deshaun McCullough. They have an injury out. Their safety Deshaun Singleton. They fired their defensive coordinator. They fired their offensive line coach. They fired their defensive line coach. And they have one of the worst rushing defenses in America. Like, their rush defense was bad. Now, granted, Utah's rush defense was bad too. Now, one of the things here for on the Utah side is I think a lot of people thought Kyle Whittingham was going to coach this game because there was a chance that even though he retired and stepped away, he was going to coach this game. He's not. Obviously, he's a Michigan guy now. Morgan Scalley is, but I don't think there's going to be a downgrade here. Morgan Scalley is the guy in waiting, and they wouldn't make him the guy in waiting unless they fully had confidence in him. Utah has 3 opt-outs, their left tackle, their right tackle, and a defensive end. Now, they also lost John Henry Daly, another defensive player, late, but I don't love this Nebraska offense. TJ Lateef, I know I made the mistake a couple rounds ago when we did Nebraska, and I thought Dylan Raiola was still there, and he's not. He's injured. TJ Lateef was injured, and then he went his full go in practice. Utah's defense is nasty, and you give them a lot of time to prepare for a quarterback that doesn't have a lot of reps and is, a freshman. Like, I think Utah confuses him, and I think Dampier scores a rushing touchdown. I think Ficklin scores a rushing touchdown. The backup quarterback, heck, I think other running backs. Like, I think this is a Utah game, especially indoors on that field. I think Utah names their score. I took their team total over in this game. There might still be some value there, but I think Utah destroys Nebraska in this game.
Matt, we got the college football playoff game, New Year's Eve here, Miami and Ohio State. The rematch of what was that? The 2002 national championship and the pass interference call, one of the more impacted officials making a call in a football game of my lifetime for you younger viewers out there. It was a spectacle to say the least. But anyway, they face each other here. College football playoff game, New Year's Eve in the Cotton Bowl, AT&T Stadium, Dallas, Texas. And we're pretty much seeing the Buckeyes -9 and a hook across the board as the favorite, 40.5 being the total. So, Matt, just something kind of blimps view here. This is the lowest total in the college football playoff and the highest point spread. Right off the bat, I kind of look at the underdog in that situation just because, it's tough to run up the score when the odds makers are telling us points are going to be at a premium. I'm looking towards the Hurricanes here, Matt. How are you feeling about the New Year's Eve playoff game?
So I had the same thought you did in terms of this game. I went back and looked at last year, and I saw what happened in round 2 with the teams that played in round 1. And in 3 of the 4 games, the team that played the closest was up 14-0 at the end of the first quarter. And I think it makes a difference. Ohio State's been gone for like a month. Now, granted, Miami's been gone for 2 weeks, but at least there's more of a rhythm there for Miami than there is Ohio State. Upon first glance, I was like you. I was like, I like Miami plus the points. But here's my thing, Drew. Like, we know how smart the odds makers are. And so if they put this number out, they have to expect a lot of underdog money here because Miami's a really good team. This just in, Miami's really fast. They're really athletic. They're really talented. They have a great defensive line. They shut down a pretty good Texas A&M team in their building a couple weeks ago. Depends on what you think of Marcel Reed. Marcel Reed was not impressive at all in that game. But Miami's defense is legit. Now, you can throw in Miami's defense. I expect Julian Sayin to complete at least 1 or 2 deep bombs to Jeremiah Smith or Carnell Tate. I think Miami's secondary is good, 20, 10 yards away, but they can get beat deep. So I expect some long touchdowns here. I played Miami in the first quarter. Now, I played this a couple days ago, and I got Miami plus 3.5 in the first quarter. I just think based off of last year, I think the team that played more recent is going to be fresher and better off than the team who didn't play for a month. You could simulate all you want in practice, Drew. Like, you could simulate all you want, but like until you actually play a team that's not your own, it's a whole different ball game. So this is not based off of any handicap other than I believe in Miami's defense early. I believe Miami's offense can put some points up. Heck, if they score a touchdown, I think my plus 3.5 is good. If they score a field goal, it's going to be nerve wracking because 7-3 Ohio State, I lose. But I am playing Miami in the first quarter. I took it at plus 3.5. I just think the fact that they have played recently, more recent than Ohio State, is going to help here. I think Ohio State wins the game. But I think that Miami's going to strike first, giving us potentially a very good opportunity in game to take Ohio State at a better number than you're going to get right now.
Interesting take there, Matt. First quarter action. And I guess just a follow-up question for you. If this was played, say, like week 2, week 3, do you think it would be a different point spread in total?
Yeah. I mean, I can't remember. What was Ohio State, Texas? I don't remember what Ohio State, Texas was week 1.
Well, it finished, 14-7. I believe Ohio State was like a slight favorite.
So, I mean, wrong. And look, I think Miami's better than Texas. And obviously what we know now, Miami definitely is better than Texas. The other thing that's interesting here is Ryan Day's calling plays. Brian Hartline's not calling plays. He's gone.
Oh, yeah.
So Ryan Day is calling plays. Now, I don't think that's going to be a huge issue here. But once again, the first quarter adjustment, the first couple drives. And here's the other thing that I think will help us here on this first quarter. These are two of the slowest teams in the country pace-wise. They're both around 30 seconds per play. Like, neither of these teams, unless they want to try something different, neither of these teams are going out there, no huddle, going right down the field. So we're only going to see, 3 drives maybe, unless there's a 3 and out, 2 or 3 drives in the first quarter. All I need is Miami to keep Ohio State out of the end zone, and I win. I'm looking at the lines here. I think a lot of the first quarters, there's 2.5, there's a 3 out there. So, I think the 3 is still good. That's another reason why I like Miami to start faster, even if it's 0-0 and they look better than Ohio State. And then if they score, I'm coming back over the top probably and playing Ohio State live at a better number than this 9.5.
So Hartline, he took the USF job and he's not staying for the playoffs, correct?
From what I've read, Brian Hartline is not calling plays from this game. Now, things could change, but I'm pretty sure that Brian Hartline is not calling plays for this game.
That's a nice nugget there. And I'll tell you the truth. I'm not a big fan of when head coaches call the plays, Matt. And I know Ryan Day's done it in the past, but there's a lot to keep up with as a head coach, particularly in a game like this. And if you're responsible for, when you're calling plays, you got to look out a play or 2 ahead. It's just a lot to keep up with. I usually look to go against that. That's
Which is why in the first quarter, I think there's going to be an adjustment period. Now, look, Ohio State's good enough that they can overcome that. And the great wide receivers, very good running backs. And as I said, Miami's more susceptible to deep passing than they are short passing. The question is, you watch that Ohio State game against Indiana. Indiana got some pressure on Ohio State. Well, Miami's defensive line is way better than Indiana's defensive line. If they start getting pressure on the young quarterback here, I think that's going to help the defense as well. That's why I feel like this first quarter is going to be a feeling out period, and that's why I think we're only going to see 2 or 3 drives in the first quarter, and that's why I would take the underdog with the chance that it's 3-0, 0-0, whatever it is.
Woo-woo Kenny Woo in the house. Welcome in Woo-woo Kenny Woo, saying play calling may not matter as much with how much this Miami defense is going to get to say in. Should be a low scoring. I agree with you, woo-woo, Kenny Woo. But, I think defense is going to be at the forefront. I think points at a premium. Welcome in Dan as well, Zach. If you guys are watching on YouTube or Twitter, feel free to comment below. Any questions, your pick, all is welcome. As we'll turn the page, welcome to 2026. I'm not sure I'm ready for it, Matt. The year is done here, but first game up, 12 noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Have the Bloody Marys ready to go here. Oregon and Texas Tech from Hard Rock Stadium, Miami Gardens, Florida. -2, -2.5, depending where you're shopping. That is Oregon as the favorite, 51.5 being the total. Great matchup overall. I think this is a fascinating handicap here. What are we thinking with the Red Raiders and the Ducks?
So obviously, this is a fascinating game. And once again, part of my handicap will be the fact that Oregon played a couple weeks ago and Texas Tech has not played since December 6th. So almost a month here. The thing that's interesting in this game is I don't know if we can accurately say how good these teams are. And let me finish that. So, like, if you look at Texas Tech this season, Texas Tech's schedule, they played Utah back in September and they played BYU twice. Other than that, they really didn't challenge themselves in that conference. Houston's not terrible. They got them on the road. Kansas is okay. Like, they're hit or miss, but like, this is the best offense that Texas Tech will have seen this season. And it's by far the best offense that they've seen this season. So, like, Texas Tech has a really good defense. There's a ton of very good numbers for Texas Tech. But, like, can we accurately say how good this defense is? Oregon's going to be the best offense that they've seen. Oregon's also healthier at wide receiver. Last game they had some of their guys come back, and like, they're outside of not having Stewart, they're as healthy at wide receiver as they can possibly be. On the other side of things, Oregon had basically the game against Indiana, which they lost 30-20, and that was at home. They played USC. USC scored 27 points. But then other than that, the rest of the teams they played, no one has as good of an offense as Texas Tech does. So I think in a way, this game will tell us a whole lot more about both of these teams. And here's the thing if you tell me the answer to this question, I'll tell you who's going to win. How many times is Texas Tech going to settle for field goals in the red zone? Like, Texas Tech went 3 for 11 in their 2 games against BYU in the red zone. 3 for 11 in 2 games. Like, okay, if they go 2 for 6 and 1 for 5, they're not winning this game because Oregon's offense is going to pay off their red zone trips. Texas Tech, if they're settling for field goals, means they're not going to keep up here. Oregon's defense is 117th in red zone touchdown rate allowed. So, like, Oregon's defense gives up a lot of touchdowns in the red zone. And depending upon what you think about that game against JMU put up over 400 yards of offense on Oregon. Now, look, a lot of it was in the second half, but still, like, there were some starters out there. So, like, how concerning is that? So basically, Drew, like, what I'm saying here is this is a show me game for both of them. I like Morton. I like Texas Tech's quarterback. I love Rodriguez. I think Jacob Rodriguez should have gone to New York for the Heisman ceremony. I know he wasn't going to win, but I think he should have gone. I think he's the best defensive player. And I think as long as you have a defensive player that high, like, he should have gone to New York as well. He deserves all the accolades he gets. But, like, both of these teams are seeing a step up in competition here. Now, my slight lean early, once again, Oregon played 2 weeks ago. Texas Tech hasn't. So, Drew, this is a show me game for both of them. I don't know if you agree, but like, both these teams have, great statistics, but they did it against schedules that weren't as tough as they seem to be.
I 100% agree with you, Matt. That's what I kind of let in with. This is a fascinating handicap because what you were talking about with the scheduling, I don't think either of these teams played too difficult of a schedule. But the Big 12 conference in itself is tough to handicap because we really only have Texas Tech in terms of like playoff teams. And when you look at the Big 12 conference, you can make the argument they didn't play top teams. But what comes with that is they didn't play a lot of bottom feeders either. It just comes with the Big 12 conference. There's a lot of quality teams. There's not a lot of, really good and really bad teams. So you can run off wins. And I feel like you got to give the Red Raiders credit here, Matt. I mean, 12-1. By the way, 12-0 with their starting quarterback. The game they lost, Morton was out. That's the reason I would side with the Red Raiders. But again, it's a fascinating matchup.
I mean, it's just, and look, this is one of those games where I think live betting is probably the best way to go because you'll get a feel for how good. I mean, look, Oregon's got speed that I don't think anybody on this schedule for Texas Tech has. I mean, BYU maybe, but like, BYU's offense is not speed based. Utah back in September, like, they're not really a speedy offense either. So, like, I think this is the most speed that Texas Tech is going to see. But I also think this is the best offense that Oregon's going to have seen for quite a while since they probably played Indiana back on October 11th. Like, USC's offense is good when it's full strength. I think Texas Tech's offense is probably better. So, to me, this is a perfect live betting game. I know it's not great for a podcast like this, but to me, this game is going to show me a lot. Like, I think either one of these teams, Drew, could win the national championship if they get past this game. Look, if Texas Tech shows me that they can handle Oregon's offense and Oregon's speed and pay off their red zone trips with touchdowns, then I think Texas Tech can continue on. I love their defense. I just want to see their defense against one of the better offenses in the country as opposed to what we've seen from them so far this season.
To that point, I feel like this year there's more parity than in past years. I didn't really feel like when we got to the Elite Eight is pretty much what we're at right now. Every team could win the national championship. I feel that every team can win the national championship. I don't think they have the same. They obviously don't have the same odds, but it wouldn't be like totally surprising for any of these teams, the final 8 here, to win the national championship, Matt.
I think Alabama and Ole Miss would be my longest shot, only because consistency. I mean, at their best, they're very good, but I don't, consistently week after week, and considering who they would potentially have to go through in the bracket. I mean, I'm looking at DraftKings' odds. Miami has the longest shot, but I think Miami has a lot of talent. Now, obviously, everybody's looking at this game and seeing that they're 9.5-point underdogs. Plus 280 on DraftKings that's to reach the semifinal. So that's even better. They're 9-1 to win the championship. And I get it's because of the path and everything, but Miami has the talent to go through everybody. We also haven't had, though, as I've said before, we haven't had the Cristobal moment yet where he's made the mistake and they've lost the game because of it. We haven't had that yet. And we may not. But as you said, outside of Alabama and Ole Miss, you're right. Any of the other 6 could certainly win the championship.
Yeah, I wouldn't count the Rebels in the Tide out, though. I feel like if Ty Simpson is able to put them on their back, they got a shot. And then Ole Miss, I mean, like we were talking about, just because Lane Kiffin's not there, the rest of the core is. And Woo Kenny Woo chiming in again. Do we have a favorite future in this thing? To tell you the truth, I'm not a huge futures better, Woo Kenny Woo, but with that plus 900 on the Miami Hurricanes, if you made me pick, I'd probably take a swing at that one.
I think the winner of this game, the Oregon-Texas Tech game, I would put something on them to win the championship. I think, look, we're going to get to Indiana, and Indiana's very good, but I think Texas Tech, if they beat Oregon, could certainly beat Indiana. I think Oregon, I mean, they've already seen them. So, it's already a game where they both have film on each other. So, I think I like the winner of this game to win the championship. Now, the problem is, do you want to take it now and get better value on the winner? Or do you want to wait till after this game, get worse value, but no, look, Texas Tech looks legit because they beat Oregon in this game.
All right, Matt, we'll go to the afternoon game here on New Year's Day. It is Alabama and Indiana. We are seeing the Hoosiers -7. The consensus line, FanDuel is dealing a -7.5. Hoosiers as the favorite, 48 being the total. This game in Pasadena, the Rose Bowl here. Alabama and Indiana, Matt.
So this game's interesting for a couple reasons. Obviously, it's funny, Drew, if you had said 5 years ago that in the college football playoff, Indiana would be a touchdown favorite over Alabama, people would think you're insane. They'd be like, what are you talking about? But this is the case now. The other complicating factor is for tomorrow afternoon, and this doesn't happen in California often, it's going to rain. There's about a 60, 70, 80% chance of rain in this game. So that's going to make things a little bit interesting. Now, when you look at the Alabama side, one of the reasons why I don't think Alabama's winning the championship is this is a one-dimensional team. They can't run the ball. They don't run the ball with any sort of success. And in a game in the rain, you're going to have to run the ball to keep things interesting here. Now, Alabama's that weird team. If you look, they've won 4 games in which they were outgained. 2 of those, they were outgained by more than 100 yards. Their last 2 wins, they were outgained by more than 100 yards that they won the game. On the one hand, that says that's great. This team knows how to win when things aren't going their way. The other thing is the balloon going to pop at some point and they're just going to get blasted here? You look at the Indiana side of things. Once again, long layoff for Indiana. Great coach, Curt Cignetti. I mean, they have the coaching advantage here probably, although I do like Kalen DeBoer, but Indiana hasn't played for a while. So that's a little bit of a concern here. Can Alabama jump out early on Indiana, in the rain and force Indiana to maybe slightly change their game plan? I don't think Alabama can. That's why when we talk about this first quarter stuff, Drew, I think Miami can take advantage of it early against Ohio State. I think Oregon can take advantage of it against Texas Tech. We'll talk about the next game after that, but I don't know if Alabama can take advantage of it. That's why I'm not looking first quarter here. I think my lean here is Alabama's team total under. You could probably get a 20.5 at a decent number. I just don't think Alabama in the rain against this defense can take advantage of things. Making Ty Simpson one-dimensional is tough in this situation. Now, here's the other thing, Drew. Indiana lost Stephen Daly to an injury in the Ohio State game, the last game. He's their best defensive lineman. that is a problem because if you can't get pressure on Alabama, eventually Ryan Williams and Bernard and these other guys, what's the tight end, Cuevas, or however you say his name, I apologize. These guys can get open eventually if Simpson has time. The question is, will he have time? That's the deciding point here, I think, in your handicap.
Absolutely. Should be well, I was going to say a nice viewing, which the Rose Bowl usually is there, the sun setting. But you're right, man. The rain playing a factor here. Something to notice there, Alabama and Indiana. All right, we got the last college football playoff game before we hit the last couple bowl games. And it is Ole Miss and Georgia, 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific from Caesars Superdome, New Orleans, Louisiana. And we are seeing the Georgia Bulldogs -6 and a hook as the favorite, 55 and a hook being the total. This is a rematch. These two teams played, maybe 2 months ago in Athens. Ole Miss had the lead and gave it up in the fourth quarter. Georgia, they've been Bulldogs all season long here. Tough team to go against, but -6 and a hook, and they win by a touchdown or more, Matt.
Well, and that's the thing here. The coaching advantage is so huge for Georgia that once again, I don't think I'm going to take Ole Miss first quarter here. I don't know if Ole Miss can take advantage of it early. Now, the question is here, how much can we take from that game in October? Because obviously Lane Kiffin was there. It was a regular season game. It was a huge regular season game. You mentioned it. I mean, Georgia played the perfect fourth quarter. It was 143-13 yardage. Stockton went 6 for 6 for 71 yards. He had 2 touchdown passes in that fourth quarter. Trinidad Chambliss was 1 of 10 for 1 yard. Since that game, Georgia's defense has been awesome. Like, this has been the Georgia defenses we're used to the last couple of years. So my question is, can the coaching advantage help that much? Because, Pete Golding, now I think it helps that Ole Miss, Charlie Weiss Jr. is there, and I think a lot of the coordinators are there. So I think that's going to help here. But I feel like Georgia can out-scheme Ole Miss. Like, Georgia knew for a long time that they were going to play Ole Miss. They knew they weren't going to play Tulane. So they had plenty of time to basically study every single little thing about Ole Miss here. So, I think Georgia's going to win. And you mentioned the number here. I think the number is perfect, Drew, and I know this is sacrilege to some people, but this is a perfect teaser number. Why wait and why assume that Georgia's going to cover the 6.5? Why not tease it down or tease it up with something else? Take something in the NFL, take another bowl game that we're going to discuss here. But like, this 6.5 number, Drew, is perfect for teasing it down to essentially ask Georgia to win, which I think they're going to do here. I'm interested to know what you think of this matchup.
I see where you're going with that. I'm not a huge teaser guy in college football. Matt, my initial thought is Georgia blows them out.
Okay.
I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if this is, 44-10 heading into the fourth quarter and it's just non-competitive. I obviously could be wrong. I haven't bet. I just feel like that's coming.
Well, I could see it. And that's where the coaching advantage comes in. That's where having the same coaching staff is there. That's where having Pete Golding versus, their head coach at Georgia, like, that's where the advantage comes in. And I think, look, I'm not so much a Stockton guy. Stockton's all right. He's all right.
Yeah.
But like, he's the type of guy, like, he feels like he's Trent Dilfer. Like, Georgia's defense is good enough that Stockton just can't mess up and they're going to win games. So like, he's got to just sit there and he's got good weapons. Don't get me wrong here. And like, he in some games has been tremendous, but there's other games where he's either been mediocre or bad and the defense has saved them. So like, I give the edge to Chambliss here, although he's been all over the place. But like, yeah, you're probably right that I think Georgia wins this game rather easily. But the question is, once again, how's this game start? Does Ole Miss take advantage of the fact that they played a couple weeks ago? Are they out 7-0? Can we get a better number on Georgia in game if Ole Miss is up 7-0 early on?
I think it's tough to go up against Kirby Smart. And what you were talking about early, just the preparation. I mean, this is kind of where the extra preparation time, your opponent doesn't have it. Kirby Smart, in my opinion, the best coach in college football. You bring up Stockton, the quarterback, like, he's a tough guy. Like, some of those throws are next level throws, and he might get a look in the NFL, but I don't think he's like one of the best quarterbacks in college football. But to your point, sometimes you don't need that. If you got the best defense, you got playmakers on the outside, you just have a quarterback that doesn't lose it for you. You can win national championships doing that. So, fun one there on New Year's night. We got next one up, January 2nd, the Armed Forces Bowl. This is in Fort Worth, Texas. It is Rice and Texas State. take a little bit of a step down, but getting more in mid-major Matt's territory here. Minus 16. That's Texas State, the Bobcats as the favorite. 57 being the total. Well, both of these two teams, Texas teams playing in Texas, but a big number here. Texas State laying more than 2 touchdowns, Matt.
All right, so I'm glad because when I was doing my prep and everything for this yesterday, none of the team totals were out for these last couple games, and none of the touchdown markets were out for these couple of games, and they are now, thank goodness. So I know we're going to do a best bet at the end of the show here. I mean, I'll just tell you right now, it's Texas State over 4.5 touchdowns. You can get it minus 130. As soon as we're done, I'm going to put it into the Action Network app so everybody can see it. When you look at this matchup, Rice's offense is going to be struggling. Rice has their starting quarterback opting out, Chase Jenkins. Drayden Dickman, the wide receiver, running back Dalen Alexander, they're all both in the transfer portal. Looks like they're not going to play. So that's not good. And so for me, Rice still runs that funky offense, a little bit of triple option. There's some various things. So it's going to take some time to get ready for, but I see a lot of 3 and outs. And then when I look on the Texas State side of things, and once again, there could be opt-outs. We're doing this on Wednesday. The game's on Friday. Texas State, pretty much intact. Like, I'm looking here. There's not a lot in the portal. There's not a lot in the injuries. And they have one of the best offenses in the country. They have 90 plays of 30-plus yards this season. That's 10th in the country. They're averaging almost 7 yards per play. This is almost like watching the North Texas game, and North Texas moved up and down the field on San Diego State. San Diego State had a great defense. Rice has a terrible defense. So to me, if you have this market, Texas State over 4.5 touchdowns, it's minus 130 right now. Now, I don't have this market. I'm using a website to see it. I would totally jump all over that. I think Texas State wins this game something like 45-10, 45-14. Like, I think Texas State, if you want to jump on the team total too, like, unless there's some sort of opt-outs here at the end, and it doesn't seem like there is. The quarterback has already said he's coming back next year. The number 1 running back, I think he said, is coming back next year. Bo Sparks has already said he's coming back next year for Texas State. Like, I would jump all over them. The weather looks fine. There's no weather problems here. I think Texas State names their score in this situation. Great season for Rice. I mean, what that coach did with Rice, and he's going to have to do it all over again next year with the quarterback and the wide receiver leaving. But, like, Texas State, G.J. Kinney. Give G.J. Kinney a month to come up with plays. We're going to see some fireworks from the Bobcats here.
G.J. Kinney, do you remember him as the quarterback?
Tulsa.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, man. He was good. I had him on my list for Tech. I thought, I had him back. It was like September, October when Tech fired Brent Pry. But obviously, I mean, James Franklin's better. But like, I wanted G.J. Kinney as my head coach. He's one of the youngest coaches in America. But the problem is in October and November, his teams consistently collapse. So that's something that's a little bit of a concern here. But like, with time off and everybody healthy on that offense against a Rice defense that's going to be like, where is everybody going? I think Texas State just blows them out in this situation.
It's cool to see some of these guys like have success at as a player and then do it again as a coach. Like, his name, reminds me of 10, 15 years ago. That Tulsa team was an over machine. I was betting them over, cashing tickets. They were scoring some points for sure.
Well, that was Philip Montgomery. And Philip Montgomery is a very good offensive coordinator and he was the head coach of Tech down the stretch this season. And the guys really liked him. But he had like 2 really good wide receivers on that team. Like G.J. Kinney was. And then he had a brief NFL career. I think he was like the 3rd stringer for the Eagles at one point or 4th stringer for the Eagles at one point. So he had a cup of coffee in the NFL as well.
Yeah, interesting stuff here, guys. We've got 4 games on Friday, January 2nd. Next one up, Navy and Cincinnati. This is 4:30 Eastern in the Liberty Bowl. So Memphis, Tennessee here. -7 and a hook at most shops. That is Navy as the road favorite, 54 being the total. I'll tell you this, Matt, before I throw it over to you. Military academies, for me, are bet on in bowl season. Come opt-outs, NIL, whatever you want to call it. These guys come to play. It's Navy or pass. Even though I love Cincinnati this year. They had a great year. Sorsby was a great quarterback. I don't know if he's playing. I'll throw it over to you. What do you think, Navy, Cincinnati?
Yeah, it's Navy or pass here. Now, look, we will not get any information on anything with regards to Navy. They're always tough with the injuries, the opt-outs and stuff like that. But, like, I don't see why anybody wouldn't play in this game. Like, where are they all going? Where would they opt out to? If you're in the Navy, you're going to probably stay in the Navy. So like Navy's 5-0 against the spread in their last 5 bowl games. And a lot of them have been against good competition. Like, remember, last year they beat Oklahoma. And I think that was a Oklahoma team that was missing a ton. But like, this is a Navy team that treats all these things like business trips. And once again, like, what is it? So you said Navy is, they're 7.5. I mean, here's the thing. And I know you said you don't like teasers. If I tease Navy and Indiana, or excuse me, in Navy and Georgia, there's your 6-point teaser right now, and you're basically asking 2 teams that we think are going to win. Or you could do a Navy Georgia money line parlay, throw in Indiana if you like Indiana. It's not a bad money line. Like Navy's a great money line piece to throw in with NFL stuff or anything like that. On the Cincinnati side of things, you mentioned Sorsby. He's not playing in the game. The defense is going to be without 3 safeties, 2 corners, and a defensive end. And Dante Corleone, who's one of the best defensive tackles in America, like he is a tremendous, tremendous player. He's not on the depth chart. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean he's not playing, because I know that SIDs are the ones a lot of times who fill out these depth charts. But like, if he doesn't play, that's a huge part of the middle. You know how much Navy loves running up the middle. If their best defensive tackle's not there, like Navy should be able to do whatever they want. It looks like it's going to be Brady Lichtenberg and freshman Samaj Jones at quarterback for Cincinnati. Like, I like Satterfield as their head coach. I think he's a very good head coach, but like Navy should be able to do whatever they want in this game. Their team total touchdowns is 3.5. Sadly, it's at -180. I love that bet. I probably won't take it because it's -180. But once again, like, Navy just treats all these things like business trips. Cincinnati's going to without like their whole defense. And what fun is it, Drew, to prepare during all this time off for a triple option team when you really just want to go home? Like, you really just want to end the season. You want to get with your family. You want to get ready for the draft. You want to do whatever. I just think Cincinnati beats them up. And I think this number's too short. I think Navy just does whatever they want in this game.
Yeah, tough to argue with that. I mean, huge line move we need to throw out. This opened, Cincinnati is the touchdown favorite. Now it's Navy more than a touchdown. So a 2-touchdown move here just speaks to where we are in college football bowl season with these opt-outs, man. You got to get the best of the information. Something to fix it might be move these bowl games up earlier, Matt. To task these kids to, during Christmas and the holidays to like be practicing. Like, why couldn't this game be played on December 23rd, and then everybody could go home for Christmas type deal?
I guess. I think they probably went home for Christmas anyway. I mean, this is next Friday. They probably allowed them to go home. They gave them a couple days off. I know they probably don't have days off at Navy, but like, yeah, I think these kids were with their families on Christmas. Like, I don't think that mattered, because if you think about when like Cincinnati's last game it was a while ago. So like, I don't think that was an issue here. And I, as a college football fan, Drew, I appreciate all the bowl games on Friday. Because as you've seen, we've talked about 2 games on this Friday, and I love 2 things with both of them. So like, I'm fine with these games being here, and I'm fine if they're both blowouts, which is what I think they're going to be so far.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Good point. It is fun to have a 4-pack on Friday, and we got the third game of the 4, 8 o'clock Eastern, Wake Forest and Mississippi State. So an ACC SEC matchup here. This is in Charlotte, North Carolina, Bank of America Stadium, where the Panthers play their home games. This is the Mayo Bowl. I believe it's Duke's Mayo Bowl, but either way, 53 being the total. -3. That is the Bulldogs of Mississippi State as the favorite, Matt.
So this is an interesting game because Wake Forest obviously has the advantage of being closer to home, and I think that could make a little bit of a difference here, a little bit. Not that it's that far of a travel spot for Mississippi State, and it's not like they're heading into a hostile atmosphere or anything like that. First off, when you look at all these games, you got to take a look at who's not going to be there. And so for not going to be there on the Wake Forest side, they're very good defensive tackle, Mateen Ibiragwa. I'm sorry if I botched the name, but one of their best defensive tackles. Their wide receiver, Chris Barnes, who is a freshman, who was one of the best wide receiver freshmen in the country. Micah Mays, who is a very good wide receiver. And it looks like Damon Claiborne, who declared for the NFL draft, their running back, is not playing in this game. Injury-wise, they're pretty healthy with regards to that. Mississippi State, we only see one guy in the transfer portal, safety Tony Mitchell. Other than that, like, they fired the defensive coordinator, but like, the continuity is with Mississippi State in this game. Now, Mississippi State's defense is obviously not great. They fired the defensive coordinator here. And I really like Kamario Taylor. Kamario Taylor's the quarterback here for Mississippi State. I think we could see some Blake Shapen in this game because it's, obviously going to be his final game of his college career. But Kamario Taylor is a guy that there's not a lot of film on, and he's going up against a good Wake Forest defense that's without a defensive tackle here. I just don't know how Wake Forest is going to score because if you look at their offense a lot of this season, a lot of the success that this Wake Forest offense had was based off of Damon Claiborne. Now, you, more than a lot of people, are familiar with Robbie Ashford and know what he can do. But, this is, once again, like Jeff Sims, like some of these other guys. There's good Robbie Ashford and there's bad Robbie Ashford. And now, without Damon Claiborne and without Chris Barnes and without Micah Mays Jr., we're relying a lot on Carlos Hernandez and Sterling Burkhalter at wide receiver. And we're relying on a lot of running backs who aren't Damon Claiborne. So I don't know how they score here. I think this line is generous towards Mississippi State. Now, I don't know how much people think about it, but the SEC's record so far in the games against the other Power 4 conferences hasn't been good. You saw once again, I think they're 2-4, 2-5 in those games. But I lean heavily to Mississippi State in this game. I just don't know how Wake scores in this situation.
It's always interesting to go back and look at SEC or at any conference and how they're doing in bowl games. I don't know that it matters as much anymore because it's so game specific with who is playing and who is not playing in terms of, how the conference is done before you. And they have the conference trophy of who has the best winning percentage, which by the way is the Pac-12 because they went 1-0 with Washington State.
Perfect. Well, actually, isn't it? Well, I think, aren't they tied with the Independents? Because UConn won, right? So the Independents are 1-0.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, we'll see what happens with that. We got one more game here on Friday. We'll get a best bet out of Matt. Guys, if you're new to Every Game on the Board, YouTube, Twitter, Spotify, listen to the podcast there, Apple Podcasts, Every Game on the Board. You can follow Matt on Twitter at Mid-Major Matt. He's got his radio show, ESPN Richmond. Talking basketball too, right, Matt? You want to throw out anything there on the hardwood?
So I've been doing a lot of college football, so we haven't done as much. I think I've only made 6 or 7 bets on college basketball this season, which usually I'm like you I know you dip your toe in early, but then really dive in come conference play. I think that's going to be me. Very excited because today's a lot of good conference games. In my area, I will learn a lot about Tech and UVA, who are playing in Blacksburg today. We'll learn a lot about some of the A10 teams. VCU's hosting a really good St. Bonaventure team. Richmond's playing a really good GW team. So, today is kind of the start of conference play, and I think we'll start getting more accurate representations because there's a lot of teams who played garbage non-conference schedules. So I've been like you and kind of just diving into college football a lot, and we'll do more college basketball. And as you mentioned, on my Twitter account, all my plays are documented. I'm on the Action Network. I put it all in the app. As soon as this is done, I'm going to put in the Texas State play. I'm going to put in some Navy plays and stuff like that. But you could see all my stuff on the Action Network app. So when I say that I'm, 10-3 or 12-3, whatever I said in the bowls, it's actually documented.
At Mid-Major Matt on Twitter. All right, we got last game here, Friday, 8:00 Eastern. Arizona and SMU, Snapdragon Stadium, San Diego, California. That is where San Diego State plays their home games. -1 and a hook at most shops. That's Arizona as the favorite, 52 being the total. We get Big 12 conference game, with SMU being in the ACC. Big 12 ACC, Arizona and SMU here, Matt.
So I think this is the toughest game to handicap of all of them that we talked about. Brett Brennan said he's not saying who the opt-outs are. He ain't saying it. He said that he does not want to help SMU. He doesn't want to give any sort of information out there. So, it's a tough handicap because, you can almost try and guess the NFL draft guys maybe and see if you think they're going to play or not. If this was a week 3 game, it's a completely different handicap because everybody's playing. And I think, it's funny because I did these notes last night. It was -3 Arizona, which makes me think already there's some insider information that somebody's not playing this game for Arizona and people are betting on SMU. So this is where you really have to this is where I think, Drew, me waiting till the end to have the most information hurts me because I could have gotten SMU +3, and if now I can't get that number. But when you have a coach saying, I'm not telling you who's opting out, that makes this game a whole lot tougher to handicap because Arizona's the better team of the two. But if they're not 100% intact, then I'm not in good shape here. On the SMU side, looks pretty good. One of their safeties is not playing in this game. So that's not good in terms of an SMU team that you can throw all over. Like if you get an intact Arizona team, I'm playing overs on their wide receivers. SMU is the worst secondary in football. They have the worst pass defense, or at least they did at one point. I don't know if some of the other teams who have played one extra game past them. SMU's secondary is brutal. And so if Arizona is intact offensively, they're going to throw all over the place. So give me the quarterback passing touchdowns over. Give me the wide receivers to score touchdowns. But we don't know. We just don't know who's going to play in this game. We do know Kevin Jennings is going to play for SMU. Right now, they've got one guy in the portal. They've got no injuries other than the safety. So, like, SMU is in good shape here roster-wise. But I can't in good conscience say anything in terms of a selection in this game other than if we find out Arizona's offense is intact, they're going to throw all over SMU and probably win this game. But this is where the line movement, Drew, is going to tell us something without tell us something. And so if this thing has gone down, there's no reason to bet this game right now. It's December 31st. This game's not till Friday. Why are you betting this now? Unless there's some sort of information trickling out as to somebody on Arizona who's not playing in this game.
Well, I feel like that's going to happen because when you first said Brett Brennan, who I think is a good coach, he's had success at a lot of stops, is keeping it quiet and not saying it, I would feel like that's a bet on situation, you know? But at the same time, that's going to be able to leak. And because if the guys aren't practicing and then they're not going to play, that information is going to get out with the beat writers and things of that nature, Matt, right?
I would assume so. Unless they're not opening practice or unless they're one of these teams that let you film the first 20 minutes before they actually do stuff and they have guys warming up and then they walk off when all the media members are gone. I don't know. And listen, it's not a terrible strategy, although, you know, look, it's the Holiday Bowl. This is not the college football playoff, but like, I get it. If SMU knows that Arizona's quarterback is not playing in this game, they can play things a little bit differently. And we haven't, I mean, think about it, Drew. How many games have we had no idea about opt-outs other than the academies who are just tight-lipped about all this stuff? There's no other school that does this. And so that's why this handicap's really tough. If Fafita doesn't play, Drew, then like I'm looking at Braden Locke, the kid who was not very good at Wisconsin, I think. I think that's the kid who's the backup. He's completely different than Fafita. If we find out that Chris Hudson's not playing in this game, the number one wide receiver, like that changes things a little bit. If Mahdi, the Texas State transfer, doesn't play, like there goes the rushing offense. So like I can't give a proper handicap for this game without knowing, which makes it more fun, I guess. But I can't give a selection in this game other than if we find out the wide receivers and the quarterback are in. Fafita's thrown for like 4 touchdowns in this game.
Matt, great stuff, man. Jam-packed with information here. Do you have a best bet you want to circle back to?
Yeah, I mean, it's Texas State over 3.5 touchdowns. Excuse me, it's over 4.5. Over 4.5, whatever. Navy was 3.5. I think Texas State does whatever. Rice's defense was bad as it is. And Rice's offense, without their starting quarterback, without one of their running backs, without their best wide receiver, like they're just going to go 3 and out a lot. There's no mercy on GJ Kinney's side. We've seen them score a ton of points. This is one of those things where I would almost pair off the team total with the touchdowns, but like give me over 4.5 touchdowns at -130 for Texas State. I just think this is not even going to be close, and I think Texas State puts on a show like they have all season, and so that's my selection for this one.
All right, Bobcats sounds like over 4.5 touchdowns, -130, but also liking the team total. They're obviously correlated there. So, all right, Texas State Bobcats looking to score some points here. Matt's best bet. Matt, you want to throw out anything else before we shut this down?
No, I think I want to thank you for doing this podcast because it's a great opportunity to talk about all the games. I appreciate being a part of this and want to continue going forward, 2026, 2027. Thanks to all the listeners, the watchers, and all that stuff, because without you guys and girls, we're talking to ourselves, which is essentially what radio is. I mean, I'm talking to myself on the radio, it feels like at times. But like, I love this podcast. It also helps my handicapping too, hearing other perspectives and being able to talk this stuff out with you and getting the comments as we do on YouTube. So I just want to thank you for this. And we close the book on another great college football season. And despite what people say, Drew, like college football is not dying. I saw these people, they're like, well, Iowa State has 40 players in the portal and they've got to go find out. They're going to be fine. They're going to field a football team next year. The people that want college football to die. Like, it's not going to die. It's a great sport. It's a healthy sport. There's some changes we have to get used to, but like college football is not going anywhere. And that's why it's one of the best sports in America.
Oh, in terms of atmosphere, pageantry, like rivalry, I believe it's the best there that I've ever been around. But at the same time, hey, changes need to be made. Having guys transfer in and out each and every year, I just feel like it needs to come with some type of stickiness. Maybe a 2-year contract. Maybe you can only transfer once, and it's something of that nature, Matt. I see coming around the corner to really help the sport.
Well, I mean, look, listen, I'm the one who's come on these podcasts and talked about JMU. JMU's whole offense is gone. The starting 11 or 12, the starting 12, they're all gone. It's 11. Starting 11's all gone. They're transferring or graduated. Actually, one offensive lineman's decided to come back. So, like, it happens. And this is but this is no different than the NFL free agency. It's just happening on a larger scale. This offseason, your favorite NFL team is going to have people leave. And then somebody else is going to come in. And then after that, new people are going to come in. So like, I think it's funny that all of a sudden we've decided to make college football somewhat like the NFL. And yet we're angry now. We're like, oh my God, this is terrible for the sport. Whereas you love it when your respective football or baseball team brings in a prized free agent and then he leaves. Like, it just happens everywhere else. Now college football is just being like everything else.
That it is, Matt. But well, hey, thank you. I know the listeners out there enjoy it. So thank you from them as well. And yeah, Matt, that's gonna do it, man. Happy New Year to you and your family.
Happy New Year to you as well, and all the listeners and the watchers.
Yeah, Happy New Year out there, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Comment below, smash that like button, and cash those tickets. So Happy New Year, and thanks for tuning in. Every game on the board.